Alright guys, so as you can see, today's video topic is the 48 RE versus the 68 RFE and why you should swap. So we're going to go over the basic differences between the two transmissions. We're also going to go over reasons you might want to look at this swap as an option for your truck, or for that matter, why not. The cost associated with a 48 RE swap, honestly, to me it's comparable to having a built to the max 68 RFE. So if you have broken your truck, this is something you should definitely look at. The price tag seems high off the get-go. I mean, for a 48 RE swap, you're talking probably around 10 or 11 grand. But to build a 68 RFE to the best it can be built, you're talking similar money, especially if you're not installing it yourself. So let's get into it and go from there. Oh, also, I'm rating on the truck with the dry erase marker. I'm not going to say that I recommend this to anybody. I wouldn't do it on my gray truck, that's for sure, but this thing's a little beat up, old work truck, so I'm not really concerned about it. Alright, so 48, 68, what's the difference? The 48 RE is old school. So by that I mean it comes from a base of a 727 torque flight, which was in muscle cars back in the 60s and the 70s. So there has been years of knowledge and upgrades applied to this transmission, not necessarily for the diesel market, but just in general. So when I say 48 RE, we're going to be talking about the 48 and the 47 RE kind of in the same breath. The difference between the two, the differences, I should say, are minimal. I think the planetaries, there might be an extra gear within the planetary setup on a 48 RE. It's a little heavier duty, or at least was designed to be from the factory. But in a fully built form, you might as well consider them to be the same thing. The neutral safety switches are different. The 47 RE came behind the Dodge diesel trucks from 94 to 2003. I believe you could actually get a couple common rail trucks with a 47 RE in that first year, but pretty much all your common rail trucks, 2003 to 2007, had a 48 RE. So that's why it's old school. The 6.7, the 68 RFE is modern. By modern, it's all computer controlled. It has built-in temperature sensors for all kinds of stuff. I think there's 4 or 5 electrical plugs on the transmission itself. And it's actually based on an old minivan transmission. I believe it was the 45 RFE. So that's where the basis for that trans comes. And a lot of people talk shit about it for that reason, because it wasn't designed specifically for a heavy-duty truck the way it should have been, like an Allison or a lot of the Ford transmissions, which everybody's kind of stepped their game up with the modern transmission. That being said, the 48 RE is 4-speed, 68 RFE is a 6-speed. So that means the 48 RE has 2 underdrive gears, 1 direct drive gear, and 1 overdrive gear. The 68 RFE has 3 underdrive gears, a direct drive gear, and 2 overdrives. The 48, as I said, old school, was behind the 5.9 Cummins, and the 68s were behind the 6.7 Cummins, and you can still get them today, though there is an additional transmission option with the Iacin, I think is how it's pronounced. So, that being said, the 48 RE uses clutches and bands to shift. We'll go into that in a second, a little bit more in depth. And the 68 RFE is just clutches. So a clutch pack will apply, come to the next shift, that clutch pack will disengage, and another clutch pack will engage. All computer controlled, thus more stuff that could go wrong. So your tuning for a 68 RFE has to be spot on. Don't use any of the hack tuners out there. Go with a big name. Go with somebody you can find some research on. Talk to them. Don't just get, hey, some Joe Schmo in his garage that has a tuner and can make tunes for you and all that. So you got to have a reputable tuner with the 68 for sure. So The 68 RFE here on the left, 48 RE on the right. As you can see, the 48 RE has one electrical plug. That is, I believe, 8 pins, and that's it. The 68 RFE, we have electrical plug here, electrical plug here, electrical plug here, and this big bad boy right here for all your transmission controls. So, as we come over to the truck, as you can see, we have some parts for other parts of the discussion. Here is part of a valve body for a 68 RFE that I cut down. I was trying to do a little research, I guess you would say. So, speaking of how modern it is, as you can see, there's like 20-some pins on this one electrical connector that is on the 68 RFE. So there's a lot of information going on. Also, this slide right here, this is how the truck knows where the transmission is, whether it's in park, drive, reverse, neutral. So, say this is the park position. You put it in drive. I guess that would be manual first there, but say drive. That's how the truck knows it. And how this works is, this is actually grounded. So, say, push this back. Say you had it in this notch here. So these pins, there's 5 pins here. And when you shift the transmission to say this point, the truck will see nothing, ground, 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 nothing. And that tells the truck, say, drive. So you move the next slide over, you have ground, 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 nothing. So that might tell the truck neutral. And then you got this open spot here, ground, ground, nothing, nothing. That might tell the truck it's in park. A little more complex than I think it needs to be, but that's what it is. On the 48 RE trucks, there is a pin setup for the neutral safety type switch. So the depth in which that pin is in indicates to the truck by, I believe, like a resistance value, what gear the truck's in. The 47 RE trucks, they had a simpler neutral safety switch that would operate your reverse lights and tell the truck when it was in neutral. My transmission, I have one of those plugs. As you can see, it's just a 3-prong plug. So that's how the 47 REs, that's their electronic indication for neutral, reverse, so on and so forth. Alright guys, so done with this. As I was saying, there's direct clutches or drive clutches. This piston goes in here and fluid will apply, and this pushes on a spring which pushes on clutch packs and applies that. This is that second gear band that I talked about. There's another drum, the direct drum, and when it hits the shift point, the valve body commands a little servo. It gets fluid from the valve body and it pushes on an arm that grabs a hold of the direct drum, and the direct drum also has clutches in it which will apply when this band releases to give you third gear. And then overdrive has a set of overdrive brake and an overdrive clutches. Honestly, I don't understand 100% how it works, but there's some more clutches there. That's another thing about the 68 RFE. Apparently the overdrive clutches in the back of this transmission are not very robust. When I put the 467 turbo on my truck, without even changing the tuning, if you were in one of the overdrive gears and you punched it, the truck would just shake because it was slipping the clutches. And I was told with just that, when I broke it at the track, all the clutches in that trans were shot. So that's another thing. Stock form, neither one's going to hold all the power in the world that you want.
Alright, so that was the differences. Now why swap? Why do you want to take your modern transmission out that Muller Mopar thinks is so great and put in one that's over a decade old? There's 3 reasons. Simplicity, strength, and speed. So simplicity, as you can see, it's a lot simpler electronically, but that is also the same hard parts wise. They're a lot easier to rebuild. You could find a local guy who does diesel transmissions
and you can have them build your 48 RE, or if it needs a rebuild, if you get into very high horsepowers, the clutches need changed out often. So the simplicity of the 48 makes it easier to have rebuilt, whereas a 68 RFE is very complex. Everything has to be very precise. Really limits your options at who can build you a trans. Really, there's only probably 3 or 4 manufacturers that I would recommend people check out, those being ATS, and I know a lot of people say bad things about their transmissions, but ATS, you just send it back and they'll fix it, send you another one. But that's an option. Them, RevMax, and Suncoast are probably the 3 big names that I would look at. And with all the shit that's talked about the 68 RFE, I would myself going forward, if I was looking to build a 68 RFE, I would really look hard at RevMax, because when we were at UCC, they had a 68 RFE in their truck. They drove it there, they drove it home, and they competed in all 3 events.
Oh, folks, still got the air compressor, AC on it with a CD player.
Strength. With simplicity, it's almost implied comes strength, less moving parts, less to break. But the 48 RE also has more options than a 68 RFE. You can have a billet input shaft, billet output shaft, billet intermediate shaft. You can have a larger input shaft, a larger output shaft. There's just a lot of options there. The 68 RFE, I know you can get a billet input shaft, but other than that, I think that's the only shaft you can actually replace in that transmission.
Talking about strength also, the 68 RFE has this thing called a low reverse sprag. As you can see, this is not how this is supposed to look. I broke this at the track. This is actually a billet sprag that is an upgrade that you buy for this transmission. I had that transmission fully built to the 9s, and I did that still to it. I had a local company build my 68 RFE, local shop who's well known in the area for transmissions. They will remain nameless. So I talked to them and they said, yeah, we can do what you want. We recommend our stage 4. So my next immediate question was, stage 4, what's it cost to go to a stage 5? I said, we don't have a stage 5. I said, all right, while you're building it, if you find something else that can be upgraded in it, do it. You know, so I have, at the time, their first and only stage 5 68 RFE. Needless to say, went to the track, 5 or 6 passes later. This billet sprag, well, you see what happened to it. It's, yeah, no bueno at all. This is your output shaft. Like I said, and here's the factory output shaft for a 48 RE. As you can see, it's significantly smaller. But that being said, if you're building the trans, I recommend you upgrade this to the 29 spine that's in ours. That's a billet piece. It's the same size as this shaft, which as you can see is noticeably more robust. Now, nobody makes an aftermarket output shaft that I'm aware of for a 68 RFE, and the reason is, as you can see, this planetary and this shaft, it's all one piece. There's no real way to take it apart, no snap rings or anything like that that we found on our transfer case. So I actually, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on video, those spines have a slight twist to them. Yeah, I think you guys might be able to see that. Hopefully you can. But I have a slight twist to them. I had commented on a RevMax Instagram post probably a couple years ago now, and RevMax responded saying, that's not an issue. That doesn't happen. Well, it did to me. Hopefully you guys can see it in the video, but yeah, you can twist those spines. It's possible. This is not a billet piece from my understanding. And once again, look at the difference in size.
But like I said, this on a 48 RE, and when you're building it, you can put the larger diameter output shaft in it, which I thoroughly recommend, because if you're going to have it apart, you're going to swap it into your truck, why not put the baddest shit you can in it? So there's a lot of options for the 48 RE, and honestly, when we were at the UCC, the majority of the trucks there, I'd say, Ford, Dodge, or Chevy, had 48 REs in it, because they've gotten to a point where they can make them hold the power. The 68 RFE, like I said, RevMax did a good job, but it's still kind of unproven, or it's proven that it can't hold the power. So they're working on that, but it will never be as strong as a 48 RE as far as I'm concerned. So you have strength. The last one is speed. The 48 RE is going to be quicker shifting. Why is that? Because the 68 RFE has to apply a clutch pack, disengage it, apply another clutch pack. Just going to be a little slower shifting. The 48 RE has a set of drive clutches that's always spinning in all forward gears. So then second gear shift hits. Now the little PCM that goes with it, it says shift. Now a band applies. So now you're in second gear. Third gear, it releases that band and applies an additional set of clutches to the direct drum. So it's just a simpler setup, and it's just on off. Really, really simple. So that's the 3 reasons why you would consider doing this swap. So, next topic of conversation is when. When should you consider this swap? Personally, like I said, I kind of became a fan of RevMaxes after the UCC. I think they probably bring a lot to the table. From what I understand, like, their instructions are very implicit of how to do an install of your 68 RFE. There are certain things that you need to do that majority of people, including myself, do not have. But RevMax, their high horse 68 RFE is good for 850. Now, I was listening to a podcast, and RevMax themselves even said, if this is a truck that you're going to be drag racing constantly, and you're at that 850 horsepower mark, it's just not going to hold up. So they even admitted a 47 RE is better for that kind of application. But if you're a guy who, now I would never recommend boosted launching a 68 RFE, no matter how it's built. Like I said, I spent a lot of money to have the trans done in the gray truck, took it to the track, and blew it apart. So I would not recommend that at all. But if you're a guy, you're making 800 horsepower, say, and you tow, daily drive the truck, I would certainly not have a problem having a 68 RFE in it. So, if you go over that 850 mark, I would certainly recommend really contemplating this swap. Above that 850 mark, you should probably look at a 48 RE, because if you're making that kind of power, more than likely you're going to want to play with it. So you're going to, see a guy at a red light in a Duramax and hear it whistle or something. You're going to want to race it. So you're going to launch the truck. You're going to probably drag race it, pull it, something. You're making that power for a reason. You're going to want to use it. So after 850, that's when I think you should do this swap. That being said, if you're racing the truck, now when I say racing, I'm also including pulling in that, you should consider this swap. I don't care if you're making 600 horsepower. When I broke that billet sprag in that truck, the truck only had a turbo in it, no fuel mods. So I would say if you're racing the truck and you plan on continuing to race it, say you're going down to the track for test tune every other week, whatever, that's another time when you should look at doing this swap. A third reason of when you should do this swap is when you broke the truck. I know that sucks, but if you've broken your stock 68 RFE, now it's decision time. Do you want a built 68 RFE or do you want a 48 in your truck? So the price to me is not enough of a difference to sway somebody. It's probably, if you're going to do a 48 RE swap, it's probably 10 grand, maybe a little more. It all depends on your options. But remember, you got to take into consideration that's handling all your control. And we're going to go over all what's involved with 48 RE swap later. But that's controlling the transmission, a fully built transmission, and all the provisions to put it in your truck. So it's probably $1,500 to $2,000 more expensive than doing a full build on your 68 RFE. If you have an expensive truck like one of these and you're making this kind of power, that shouldn't really be a big deal for you. You should know going into it that these are the costs associated with playing with this kind of power and this kind of truck. So those are kind of the 3 times when I think you should look at doing a 48 RE swap. So now on to our next topic. We've gone over the differences in the 2 transmissions. We've gone over why you might want to swap. We've gone over when you should think about swapping. Now, let's go over the pros and cons of each. Alright, so this is the pros and cons of doing a 48 RE swap. The first few pros we've already talked about, that being strength, speed, options. Just to touch on this stuff again, the 48 RE in a built form is stronger than the 68 RFE. That has been proven. Many of the trucks we saw at the UCC were running a 48 RE for that reason. Now, RevMax does have it figured out a little bit better, and they showcase that, but still, 48 RE is stronger. It will shift faster, quicker, and harder. And also you have options. Options, that means you can build a 48 RE pretty much how you want. What shafts you want. You know, if you want to do the swap, but say you don't have all the money in the world, you can put a stock intermediate shaft in it, and that'll be your weak link. Because from what I understand, a stock intermediate shaft, when they snap in these transmissions, it's usually a clean break, doesn't destroy everything else. You just have to have it torn down. But you have options. You can get a local guy to build it, like myself. I get a guy. I don't rebuild the transmission, but I have a guy in Rising Sun. He rebuilds my transmission for me. That's who I use. I mean, usually when we go and have a failure, because I have snapped 2 input shafts in my 48 RE, but we'll go into that later. We have a conversation. It's not just cut and dry, this is what it is. We have a conversation about it. So, you have options. With the 68 RFE, like I said, there's only about 3 manufacturers out there that I would really trust to do it. I've been through having a guy at a big, a local shop do it, and my impression was not, I wouldn't do it again that way. Let me put it that way. I'd probably be looking really hard at a Suncoast or a RevMax. And after what I saw at UCC, RevMax is probably who I would go with. Some cons of the 68 RFE is loss. But there's a couple subsections with that. Loss of what? Loss of features. With my gray truck, I had a box that would be going into this truck that allowed my reverse lights to work and also told the truck when it was in reverse. But other than that, the truck either thought it was in reverse or neutral. So my 4 low would work, but things you need to be in park for did not, such as stupid as it is, the memory option on the seats no longer functioned because the truck never saw park. Also, if you don't get like a box like I have from Fire Punk,
You won't be able to use your 4-low. You'll have to figure out how to wire your reverse lights. And I also lost cruise control. So the loss of a lot of the cool features that you probably bought the truck originally for, you're not going to be able to use them anymore. Also, you've lost an overdrive gear and a underdrive gear. So inevitably, your mile per gallon is going to go down. I don't care what anybody says, it's going to be lower. Resale. You're going to lose resale on this truck. Unless you can find that guy who is looking for a newer truck with the older transmission, which I'm sure they're out there, and that might even be a selling point to those people. But they are certainly in the minority. If you took this truck to local Dodge dealer and you wanted to trade it in on a brand new truck, you're tired of this body style, whatever, you want a brand new truck, the dealer more than likely is going to laugh at you. You know, they're not going to want anything to do with it because they have no idea what's going on and they know it's going to be a hard flip for them. So unless you can find that guy who really wants a 48 RE swap truck and needs to know what a 48 swap truck is, first off, you're probably going to lose money on that deal. All right, I know that's probably spelled wrong, but I don't really give a fuck. But drivability. When I say drivability, it's a little bit different than you're probably first thinking. You know, you're thinking how you just can't drive it on the street or it's a pain in the ass driving on the street. Not the case. 48 RE was behind trucks since from 94 to 07, so it's perfectly streetable and it's perfectly drivable. By drivability, I mean that you've lost a couple gears. It's not going to be as smooth, and particularly in our situation, we're talking kind of built transmission area here. Your shifts on your 48 RE are going to be noticeable. I mean, it's going to move you. It's very, very firm, as I would say. The 68 RFE, it's just a nice, smooth shifting transmission. Has like a progressive lockup where lockup just doesn't hit like another shift. It kind of eases into it a lot of times. Also, your shifts, everything from Chrysler was made to be like driver friendly. Make it smooth and nice, and people spending $60,000 on their truck don't feel like they're driving a tractor. So you kind of lose that bit of drivability of having a nice, smooth, luxurious, if you will, truck to drive. You're back to driving kind of like a modern tractor. The loss of features might not be as big of an issue anymore. Just to go to backtrack a little bit, I'm sorry, but I forgot the features thing might actually not be an issue anymore. Firepunk out in Ohio, who I got all my transmission controller stuff from, I believe they've developed a new product they're calling the Porcupine. I don't know why Porcupine, but they like it. Apparently this is not an issue. And the features issue also is definitely a greater issue on the 13 and up trucks. The 10s to 12s, not as big a deal. The 13 and ups, apparently it was a major issue. Some tuners wouldn't even tune them anymore. But that might not be a problem. Look up Firepunk, give them a call if you're looking at this. That Porcupine they got apparently makes it seem like the truck came with a 48 from the factory. So there's only one more pro and con I can think of, and that is so the last pro is it's cool. You got something different. If you have, you got people that don't know much about cars and stuff, and you tell them, hey, I put this decade-old transmission in my brand new truck. To me, that's cool. You got something not every other truck on the road's got. You're driving down the road, you see another truck your body style, you say, you know what, this guy doesn't have this. To me, that makes it cool. But that being said, the price of cool ain't cheap. It's expensive. I mean, like I said, 10 or 11 grand to do this swap. If you're at this level though, that's something you should be fully aware of and know, because if you're looking to do a 48 RE swap, more than likely your 68 RFE is not going to hang in there either. So that's when you need to make that decision of what do I want to do? Which transmission do I want to build?
Which leads us on to our final part of the conversation. This is the main thing. Now you have all the information, you can make an informed decision. You need to ask yourself, do I want comfort or do I want competition? If you're at that 800, 850 mark and you're saying you want the best of both worlds, you need to ask yourself an additional question. Is it going to stay 800 or 850? Or am I going to push for 9 or even 1,000 horsepower? Because if you're like most people, eventually that 800 will become normal. You'll get bored with it. You're going to want more. That's when you get into the competition side. That's when you're going to want to do this swap. Now, if you're going to make 800 horse and you're happy with it, and you know it's going to stay there, you're going to drive it daily, you're going to tow with it, all that, you're in the comfort category. So you're going to want to build a 68 RFE to the nines. You know, every brand new part you can get in it, you know, or every upgraded part, I should say, you can get in it. But if you want that little bit more and you know you're going to get that itch eventually, you're the perfect candidate for your competition, for the swap. So that's kind of what it boils down to, just basics. So I hope you guys really have become informed on this swap. I know I'm probably rambled a little, it's a little all over the place. Probably a lot of ums in there, but now you know. Now you can make an informed decision about what to do. I will be doing a video on how to do a 48 RE swap, what parts are necessary and all that. Now that video will be based on a 68 RFE. Some of the things are different for like a G56 truck, a manual truck, but we're going to get the basics, and yeah, there's a couple of little differences, but for the most part, basically it's the same. So I hope you guys liked the video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. I try and get back to all the comments, at least most of them, but I hope you guys learned a lot today, and I'll see you guys on the next one, and get out in the garage and get the wrenching.